Hi, my name is Bruce Steward. I'm a technical service manager with FMC located out of Choctaw, Oklahoma. I cover Oklahoma, Kansas, and that northern Texas panhandle.
I'm Rodrigo Onofre. I'm the row crop specialist here at Kansas State University Department of Plant Pathology, and I cover corn, soybeans, and sorghum mainly.
So Rodrigo and I are up here a hot time of the year in northeast Kansas looking for tar spot. Rodrigo, why don't you tell us a little bit about tar spot in Kansas, or what you know?
So Bruce, as we found it last year, late in the season, right, one of the differences from last year to this year is that we found it really early, mid-June, I would say, up here in Donovan, right? And since then, different from last year, I have been observing that the severity and prevalence of tar spot in Kansas has just been increasing every week that we have been into this season.
I agree. I know the pressure's been pretty uniform and common in the area we've looked at. Could you just tell us a little bit about maybe how to ID tar spot?
Right, so that's a good question, right? I'm out there, how can I confirm if I have tar spot in my field? So the first thing that I'm telling people here and growers is, look for that bug poop. The difference is when you find a tar spot and you kind of like rub your finger over that lesion, that black lesion will not rub off, right? If it rubs off, that's a bug poop. I think that's the easiest way to identify tar spot. Remember that tar spot, as it's named, the tar, it looks that black structure. It's a little bit raised, and you can see on both sides of the leaf, right? It's not just on one side of the leaf, but you see it on both. The first year that we found here in Kansas last season, we found it mainly in the upper canopy, right? The difference now from this year is that we're seeing a lot of the fields, tar spots starting from the bottom up. And what it means for us, right? It means that it's a disease that survives in crop residue. So if you had last year, the risk was higher for this year. And coming up for next season, those fields where we have tar spot will likely be at higher risk than fields that haven't been reported yet.
Tell me a little bit about the importance of leaf wetness and temperature. Which one's more important?
So Bruce, what we have learned so far in Kansas, as you guys can see, is quite hot and we're still seeing high levels of tar spot. Leaf wetness and humidity are the two main factors driving the disease, right? And we have visited fields today that severity, I would say, it's almost 100% on the ear leaf and across the plant as well. But there are fields, as we get further from the northeast, we see less and less tar spot so far.
Thanks for that information, Rodrigo. I guess, moving on, what about, why is tar spot so important for anyway?
So Bruce, that's a very good question. And one of the reasons that we see tar spot with so many high levels is that one of those stromas, the black structure, can hold like several hundreds of spores, right? And then under rain and leaf wetness and wind, those spores gets blown into the canopy. And under the right conditions, a susceptible hybrid, it can really take off, right? And the impact of tar spot from other states, what we have learned is that under severe conditions and susceptible hybrid, yield loss can be more than 30 bushels depending off the field and of course year to year, right?
That's pretty significant for sure. I guess kind of moving on to, since we're already kind of past the time here to do anything, what advice would you give to growers that are growing corn that have the potential to get tar spot? What are maybe the top 3 or 4 things you'd give them advice on?
Bruce, moving forward, especially here in Kansas, is we need to gear up with our hybrids, right? Let's start selecting good hybrids with a good seed coming from the package. And I think that would definitely put us in a winning place on that race, right? As you mentioned, it's too late. It's too late for a fungicide application at the point where we are right now. And timing as we get into the next seasons will be really important. That fungicide timing needs to come in at the right time.
Okay. So fungicide timing, and then the hybrids, and then what about the type of fungicides? What type of fungicides would you recommend?
So what we have learned is that 3 and 2 mode of actions are better than 1, and of course 1 is better than no fungicide, right? And just going back with that timing, right? What happens with tar spot is we don't want to hit it too early into the season. That V4, V6, just because those fungicides will run out of their efficacy before it's time to protect that crop, which we're talking about that VT until R5, right? So if you can wait until that VT application. And then you do your first one right there. Maybe you might not need a second application at R2 or R3, but if you do need it, there's still time, and then you're gonna help to bring that crop protected until that R5 and hopefully bring and protect that yield.
Hey, thanks, Rodrigo. That was some great information you gave on fungicide management. You know, here at FMC, we've got a nice portfolio of fungicides, a very unique fungicide portfolio with Xyway especially. Xyway goes on at plant 7.6 to 15.2 fluid ounces that you can apply this near the seed, a ½ inch to 4 inches away. And we have found that that can be a nice protection for that plant through the growing season, the fact that it's protecting that plant all the way through. And what we've seen through our research then is that having a fungicide application, maybe at that VT, R1 or R2 stage in combination with that Xyway, is some really strong treatments. We also have a Dastio that's coming out on the marketplace in a full launch in next year. It's a three-way mix, so it contains flutriafol, azoxystrobin, and fluindapyr, which is SDHI chemistry. So a nice protection with the Dastio, and have seen great results with it. In addition to Xyway and the Dastio, we also have TopGuard EQ fungicide. TopGuard EQ fungicide is comprised of flutriafol plus azoxystrobin. So if we kind of summarize the three products we have in the corn market for tar spot control, we have Xyway, which is an ant plant application. Then we also have a Dastio, or three-way fungicide, as a foliar application, and then following that up with TopGuard EQ that can be used as a foliar application as well. As we look at our at-plant treatment options for tar spot, we basically have two different programs. The first is we have a full at-plant rate followed by a foliar, and that's where we're using Xyway LFR fungicide at 15.2 fluid ounces per acre, or we're using the Xyway 3D fungicide at 11.8 fluid ounces per acre. Because we have maxed out on our flutriafol level, we would then come back in with, if needed, with a premium 2 to 3 mode of action fungicide, one that's not containing flutriafol at that point. And that can be made, you know, somewhere at that VT to R4 stage. The second kind of program would be to come out with a partial at-plant rate followed by a foliar, utilizing either Xyway LFR or 3D fungicide, and then following it with a Dastio fungicide at 8 fluid ounces or TopGuard EQ at 8 fluid ounces per acre rate, and utilizing that at that VT to R4 stage. If you're not set up with the at-plant application technology utilizing Xyway, then maybe a foliar treatment options is going to be your best course. You know, with FMC we have 3 programs at this foliar program: a 1-pass foliar, a 2-pass foliar, and then also a 3-pass foliar application. 1-pass may be utilizing a Dastio fungicide at 8 fluid ounces or TopGuard EQ fungicide at that 5 fluid ounces, utilizing it at the VT to R4. A 2-pass program would be possibly using a Dastio fungicide at 8 fluid ounces at that V8 to VT, followed by TopGuard EQ fungicide at 5 ounces at that R1 to R4 stage. If a 3-pass program is needed, option would be to utilize the Dastio fungicide at 8 ounces at that V8 to VT stage, followed by TopGuard EQ at 5 ounces at the R1 to R2, and then since we've reached the maximum flutriafol level, then coming back in potentially with the premium 2 to 3 mode of action fungicide not containing flutriafol at that R3 to R4 stage. Well, that's about all we have today, and I sure appreciate your time, Rodrigo, out here sweating. This is sweat that you're seeing on us here today. Very hot and humid here in Kansas. Just ideal conditions for disease. So thanks and good luck.
Thank you, Bruce.